The Edgar Cayce Guide to Self-Healing. By Patrick J. Berkery. 4. The Concept of Being. A condensed version. When Cayce expounded on being, he was really speaking about the being of man, and the expression of that being, which is life. Cayce often uses the term entities, or being in his readings. To be sure, there are disturbances, as there are with each and every physical manifestation in the material world of a mental and spiritual being or entity. The blood forces in the body have become so beset, or insipid, conditions have so long existed within the cellular forces, within the creative functioning cells making the new blood forces, as to contaminate the whole being or entity. Oft does an entity or being not become conscious of that. For only through experience does an entity or being develop. What is an entity or being? The entity is that combination of the physical body throughout all its experiences in or through the earth, in or through the universe, and the reactions that have been builded by those various or varied experiences, or the spiritual body of an individual. That is individual, that is the sum total of all experience. Then for the entity to create, or give, or be life, it must be a living, acting example of that it is, and not as something separated, inactive, inanimate, not giving but gradually deteriorating. There is the variation that may be seen in the material world as an example. As long as life is in whatever may be a manifestation in the material plane, it is a growth. As soon as it becomes an inanimate object, though it may be serving a purpose, it immediately begins to deteriorate, disintegrate. Be an entity. Be a living entity. See. Are all people the same then? Are you as the healer and the person you seek to heal one and the same? I am interested in the theory of twin souls. Is this true? Can it be seen whether my husband and I are twin souls? It depends upon what is the purpose, as to the application. That there are identical souls, no. No two leaves of a tree, no two blades of grass are the same. They are the complement one to another, yes, but these are dependent upon the purpose. Do not look on personalities. Look on the individuality of the individual, and know that comes from the spiritual, and not from the personal self. Each soul is a portion of the divine. Motivating that soul body is the spirit of divinity. The soul is a companion of, a motivative influence in, the activities of an entity throughout its experiences in whatever sphere of consciousness it may attain perception. Hence each soul is a universe in itself. From whence do the entities come? What is the source of being? In the beginning, when the first of the elements were given, and the forces set in motion that brought about the sphere as we find called earth plane, and when the morning stars sang together, and the whispering winds brought the news of the coming of man's indwelling, of the spirit of the Creator, became the living soul. This entity came into being with this multitude. Cayce describes the origin of the being even more fully in the following text. In analyzing self, the entity finds itself body, mind and soul, that answers in the three-dimensional plane to the Godhead, Father, Son, Holy Spirit. God moved, the Spirit came into activity. In the moving it brought light, and then chaos. In this light came creation of that which in the earth came to be matter, in the spheres about the earth, space and time, and in patience it has evolved through those activities until there are the heavens and all the constellations, the stars, the universe, as it is known, or sought to be known by individual soul entities in the material plane. Then came into the earth materiality, through the spirit pushing itself into matter. Spirit was individualized, and then became what we recognize in one another as individual entities. Spirit that uses matter, that uses every influence in the earth's environ for the glory of the creative forces, partakes of and is a part of the universal consciousness. As the entity, an individual, then applies, it becomes aware, through patience, through time, through space, of its relationship to the Godhead Father, Son, Holy Spirit. In self it finds body, mind, soul. As the sun is the builder, so is the mind the builder in the individual. Does Cayce believe that the entity is the same as man? Yes, of course. But he does not believe that man was the result of chance. For the entity came not merely by chance. For the earth is a causation world, for in the earth, cause and effect are as the natural law. And as each soul enters this material plane, it is to meet, or to give those lessons, or truths that others, too, may gain the more knowledge of the purpose for which each soul enters. For, did the Master Jesus come by chance? Or was it not according to the preparation made from the very foundations of the world? For as another has indicated, without him there was not anything made that was made. Then ye, as a sole entity, in the beginning sought companionship with God, losing that companionship by choice of that which would satisfy, or gratify a material desire only. Thus ye, as the Master, enter again and again, ye come to fulfill the law that brought thy soul into being to be one with him. Cayce, we see, strongly believes in cause and effect, and this is important for the healer to realize. He is not simply daring to heal, but he knows the laws of nature, and he respects the causality of all being. He knows there is a first cause, and he realizes that any healing needs must come through the first cause. In the readings, Cayce always stressed purpose. He wanted us to know as much as possible about ourselves and our beings so that we could respect the order that creation manifested. For the entity came not merely by chance. For the earth is a causation world, for in the earth, cause and effect are as the natural law. And as each soul enters this material plane, it is to meet, or to give those lessons, or truths that others, too, may gain the more knowledge of the purpose for which each soul enters. Cayce saw the whole of universe, and the whole of being as part of a grand plan of the Creator. Purpose and causality abounded in his explanation and understanding of being. For it is not by chance that each entity enters, but that the entity, as a part of the whole, may fill that place which no other soul may fill so well. For he hath not willed that any soul should perish. Thus with each material manifestation, there is an undertaking by an entity to so manifest that it, as a part of the whole, may become more and more attuned to that consciousness, and thus glorify him in the entity's relationships to others in any and in every experience. Hence when the entity enters the earth plane, with which we are dealing in the present, and which is to be used for each opportunity that is presented for an activity of the mental and soul forces, it is but a period again and again of the application either of the universal forces that make for a oneness of activity of the soul, or an activity in what becomes the fruitage thereof as destructive forces, or hardships, or influences that make for tempering of the soul for its purposes, its activities, its desires throughout an experience. What does Cayce teach specifically about men? The entity was among those in the day when the forces of the universe came together, when there was upon the waters the sound of the coming together of the sons of God, when the morning stars sang together, and over the face of the waters there was the voice of the glory of the coming of the plain for man's dwelling. How does man fit into creation's scheme? Where is he on the ladder of life? What existed before him? Let it be remembered, or not confused, that the earth was peopled by animals before peopled by man. First that of a mass, which there arose the mist, and then the rising of same with light breaking over that as it settled itself, as a companion of those in the universe, as it began its natural, or now natural, rotations, with the varied effects upon the various portions of same, as it slowly, and is slowly, receding or gathering closer to the sun, from which it receives its impetus for the awakening of the elements that give life itself, by radiation of like elements from that which it receives from the sun. Hence that of one type, that has been through the ages, of mind, that gives the sun as the father of light in the earth. Elements have their attraction and detraction, or those of animosity and those of gathering together. This we see throughout all of the kingdoms, as may be termed, whether we speak of the heavenly hosts, or of those of the stars, or of the planets, or of the various forces within any or all of same, they have their attraction, or detraction. An excerpt about the origin of man that is really well worth studying. Man was made as man. There is, as we find, only three of the creations as is given, matter, force and mind. In each we find that, in the forces as is developed into the conditions, as we find at the present time. All flesh is not of one flesh, but the developing of one has always remained in the same, and has only been to meet the needs of man, for which there was made all that was made, and man's evolving, or evolution, has only been that of the gradual growth upward to the mind of the Maker. Man was made in the beginning, as the ruler over those elements, as was prepared in the earth plane for his needs. When the plane became that such as man was capable of being sustained by the forces and conditions, as were upon the face of the earth plane, man appeared, and other than that, the soul of man is that making him above all animal, vegetable, mineral kingdom of the earth plane. Man did not descend from the monkey, but man has evolved, resuscitation, you see, from time to time, here a little, there a little, line upon line and line upon line. Man is man, and God's order of creation, which he represents even as his Son, who is the representative of the Father, took on the form of man, the highest of the creation in the plane, and became to man that element that shows and would show and will show the way, the directing way, the life, the water, the vine to the everlasting, when guided and kept in that manner and form. And he breathed into him the breath of life, and he became a living soul, as the breath, the ether from the forces as come into the body of the human when born breathes the breath of life, as it becomes a living soul, provided it has reached that developing in the creation, where the soul may enter and find the lodging place. All souls were created in the beginning, and are finding their way back to whence they came. What is the purpose of man? He ought to evolve himself onward and upward, striving at all times to incorporate his mind and his spirit with the one complete whole, yet always making sure he retains an awareness of his own distinct individuality. This is the sole purpose of life. Man's lot is simply to become one with the Creator, to be once more be worthy and a companion to the Creator. This is why learning healing is so vital, for through it a man fulfills his destiny as co-creator. We ought to attain Christ consciousness, and so realize the oneness of all. Man returns to his Creator, and becomes one with the universal. How can we put ourselves, then, at the service of God? Through self-healing. For healing brings out all the beautiful talents and powers in a person. How can you do his bidding? Not in mighty deeds of valor, not in exaltation of thy knowledge or power, but in the gentleness of the things of the Spirit, love, kindness, long-suffering, patience. These thy elder brother, the Christ, has shown thee, that thou, applying them in thy associations with thy fellow men day by day, here a little, there a little, may become one with him as he has destined that thou shouldst be. Wilt thou separate thyself? For there is nothing in earth, in heaven, in hell, that may separate thee from the love of thy God, of thy brother, save thyself. Then, be up and doing, knowing that as thou hast met in him those things that would exalt thy personal self, these ye must lose in gentleness, in patience. For in patience ye become aware of thy soul, thy individuality lost in him, thy personality shining as that which is motivated by the individuality of thy Lord and Master. Thus does your destiny lie within yourself, and the destiny of the world. Self-healing is a requisite for balance and order in the entire universe, for unless we put our own house in order, we are unable to function and proceed to our destiny. We rebel and make self the goal of our life. Self-healing is a restoration of virtue to our lives and our world, and is a path towards peace of mind. Know that right, justice, mercy, patience, as was represented and presented by him, the Prince of Peace, is the basis upon which the new world order must eventually be established, before there is peace. Then, innately, mentally, and manifestedly in self, prepare self for cooperative measures in all phases of human relations in this direction. The question arises as to whether man can even survive without self-healing. One great belief at the present time is the survival of the fittest. Applies in the animal kingdom, not in man. Which has survived, the brute strength, or the development towards that of God? Which survives, the man that studies God and seeks to emulate his forces and powers, or the man that emulates the forces of earth or flesh? This answers itself. If we are worried about the future of our planet, it serves us well to examine our own attitude towards our nature and our purpose. With the advent of the closeness of the worlds coming into being, so that the man upon the other side of the world is as much the neighbor as the man next door, more and more have been the turmoils that have arisen in the attempt of individual leaders or groups to induce, force or compel, one portion of the world to think as the other, or the other group to dwell together as brethren with one bond of sympathy, or one standard for all. With the present conditions, then, that exist, these have all come to that place in the development of the human family where there must be a reckoning, a one point upon which all may agree, that out of all of this turmoil that has arisen from the social life, racial differences, the outlook upon the relationship of man to the creative forces or his God, and his relationships one with another, must come to some common basis upon which all may agree. Is life a creative energy? Life itself in all its forms and phases is indeed a manifestation of that we worship as God. May the entity so conduct its mind, its body and its purposes, then, as to be a channel through which such messages may come that are needed for the awakenings in the minds of men, as to the necessity for returning to the search for their relationship with the creative forces or God. There are the centers of the body through which contacts are made, or are physically active, that at times, at all times, produce a sound. It may not be heard, it may not be always experienced by the individual, but finds expression in emotions of varied centers, varied characters. Thus the experience is that of the broader contact. Thus there are the vibrations of the electrical energies of the body, for life itself is electrical, it manifests itself in its contacts, in a physical being in much the same manner. Thus the experience in self of the emotions physical being contacted by emotions spiritual manifesting in the body. These are, then, as experiences. Learn ye to use them. When God breathed into man the breath of life, he became a living soul, an individual soul. The Spirit of God is life, whether in a blade of grass or in man. But the soul of man is individual and is immortal. Since living is done on a three-dimensional plane, our senses are limited, since they number only 5. It takes some effort to reach that state of being wherein one can look at life as more than a series of connected intervals in time and space. Man should live in the eternal present and achieve the contentment that such an awareness would bring. What is time or space when thou art in those influences that make for contentment in thine inner soul? Save those that wander from the knowledge of embracing the moment. For, only one at a time may be experienced, if they are divided as such. But see and know all rather as one. There is no time, it is one time, there is no space, it is one space, there is no force, other than all force in its various phases and applications of force are the emanations of men's endeavors in a material world to exemplify an ideal of its concept of the creative energy, or God, of which the individual is such a part that the thoughts even of the individual may become crimes or miracles. For thoughts are deeds and applied in the sense that these are in accord with those principles as given. That one meets must be met again. That one applies will be applied again and again until that oneness, time, space, force, or the own individual is one with the whole, not the whole with such a portion of the whole as to be equal with the whole. As a being, we are here to learn and to discover. Have I learned the lessons that I came here to learn? Life and truth and understanding are a growth. As we apply the lessons we learn, in our dealings with our fellow man, do we indeed as entities and souls comprehend their full meaning. Hence this experience is as a growth, as an unfoldment, even as the lotus that ye adopted as a portion of the service of those in the temple beautiful. Unfold, the seeds come after. Seek and ye shall know, knock and it will be opened. Are hereditary, environment and will equal factors in aiding or retarding the entity's development? Will is the greater factor, for it may overcome any or all of the others, provided that will is made one with the pattern. See? 4. No influence of heredity, environment, or what not, surpasses the will. Else why would there have been that pattern shown in which the individual soul, no matter how far astray it may have gone, may enter with him into the Holy of Holies? The object of our ministrations is life and being. We have to love life, to want to protect it and direct it in the path envisioned by the Creator. Self-healing is helping the self and those around us to return towards the companionship with the Creator. That is truly a sublime calling, and that is what self-healing is all about. Life is. Each soul is an offspring of the creative force called God, and is innately, and manifestedly by application, the result in the experience of how, or the manner, it has manifested that prerogative of will. The soul is and lives on, making its record in the building influence, or that stream in the experience of the body, the mind, the soul, called the mental life of an entity. Life is the consciousness of existence helping people truly live their lives. Love of life through self-healing. Man reaches that consciousness in the material plane of being aware of what he does about or with the consciousness of the knowledge, the intelligence, the first cause, makes or produces that which is known as the entering into the first cause, principles, basis, or the essences, that there may be demonstrated in that manifested that which gains for the soul, for the entity, that which would make the soul an acceptable companion to the creative force, creative influence. See? As each entity, each soul, in the various consciousnesses, passes from one to another, it, the soul, becomes conscious of that about self in that sphere, to which it, the entity, the soul attains in a materially manifested way or manner. Hence the entity develops through the varied spheres of the earth and its solar system. A soul, an entity, is as real as a physical entity, and is as subject to laws as the physical body. Personal experiences have their influence upon the inner soul. In the material, the mental, and the spiritual experience of many souls, many entities, it has been found that there be those influences that do have their effect upon the thought of those that would do this or that. Who gives it? Self. Just as it is when an entity, a body, fills its mind, mentally, materially, with those experiences that bespeak of those things that add to the carnal forces of an experience. Just so does the mind become the builder throughout. And the mental mind, or physical mind, becomes carnally directed. The mind is the builder ever, whether in the spirit or in the flesh. If one's mind is filled with those things that bespeak of the spirit, that one becomes spiritual-minded. As we may find in a material world, envy, strife, selfishness, greediness, avarice, are the children of man. Long-suffering, kindness, brotherly love, good deeds, are the children of the Spirit of light. Choose ye, as it has ever been given, whom ye will serve. As an individual in any experience, in any period, uses that of which it, the soul or entity, is conscious in relation to the laws of the creative forces, so does that soul, that entity, develop towards, what? A companionship with the creative influence. He that looks within is higher, for the spirit knoweth the spirit of its maker, and the children of same are as given. And my spirit beareth witness with thy spirit, saith he that giveth life. What is life? A manifestation of the first cause, God.